Welcome to Web Summit.
What an honor to be here.
Nice to meet you.
We have heard many things about AI, but what I'm very intrigued about today is hearing from you, the learnings that you have, how we can use AI to make business processes more efficient and on the different market segments that you work on. Cameron, I want to start with you. Very intrigued about your company, what you're doing. What were the challenges that you were observing that caused to have your company founded?
Yeah, great question. So I work for Wrapbook, and Wrapbook is a vertical fintech company for the entertainment industry. We primarily work in the United States, so think commercials, movies, television shows. On those productions, you sometimes have thousands of people coming together, sometimes working for a day, sometimes a week, sometimes for months. And all of those workers are oftentimes in unions, and they have literally tens of thousands of variations of how you should pay a union worker in the United States on a film production. And so that alone is an extremely complex constellation of complexity that really needed a modern and a contemporary solution for. But then surrounding that also at Wrapbook was the opportunity to build an entire ecosystem of software, really building a unified platform from employee onboarding and start work to, of course, payroll, as I mentioned. But then, of course, a production also has vendors, hundreds or thousands of vendors that they pay. And then therein is complexity around purchase orders and invoices and payments. And then, of course, production accounting. In the United States, and just like here in Europe, when you're making a production, there is a certain amount of your production spend that is oftentimes open to an incentive, a tax credit or something like that. Each and every transaction in a production must be properly coded, meticulously coded, in order to get access to those credits. And so what Wrapbook has done is built a totally contemporary software application to control that workflow from the onboarding of a worker all the way through to the completion of principal photography, which really is important because many of these services over the last 50 years are duct taped together or not really fully embracing the best technology that we have to solve these problems.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned just complexity, and that is something that you're also addressing, but in a totally different area, I would like to say, from a different point of view. With your company, Antoine.
Yeah, absolutely. So at Tomorrow, we are in the legal AI space. And so in legal, there are two things that we observed as a pain in the processes. The first one is the lack of good data. So lack of good contract data causes financial losses for the companies. So you miss a contract renewal in the end, for example. And the second one is the lack of efficiency in the overall contract process. So the business and the legal teams are disconnected within companies. And so what we do and what we've done over the last years are helping the legal teams to be more efficient in this process and connecting them with the rest of the business. So the marketing, the sales, the procurement teams, for example.
Mm-hmm. So your system helps people that are not too familiar with the legal aspects to draft contracts?
Yeah, absolutely. So the purpose is avoiding the legal team to be surrounded by requests from the business teams that can be handled by AI. So we help companies and we learn from their history, what they do in contracts to build such like a policy. And from this policy, so the business teams are able to review contracts on their own with the assistance of AI, for example. So they don't need to be legal experts to do it. And obviously, there are some guardrails that will notify the legal team if something unusual is happening in a contract and the contract is being blocked. So the legal team can jump in and solve the issue.
So for example, if I was in marketing and I wanted to order some flyers or whatever and I need a contract drafted for that, I could use your system to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. You can use the system and the system will guide you over what you need to do to get the contract drafted properly, for example. But once you send it and you get it back from your third party, the technology will also help you review the changes that have been made by the third parties. So they will review it for you, and maybe there will be some elements that will be blocked and sent to the legal team because it's too technical for you, and we need advanced advice to solve it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I was going to ask, as your customers are using the system, is there a sort of a natural refinement process that's going on so that the system gets better and better?
Yeah, absolutely, because what you used to say to our company, so usually building a first contract policy looks like a messy manual work, but it's not. But it's a big first step to do, and it's not because you've done it once that it's over. So the way you do contracts changes over the years in your company, and so obviously the policies are learning and evolving with your history, with the new rules, with the regulation changing, everything that can happen and have an impact of the contract that you do with your partners, suppliers, customers, employees.
I love this. I mean, like, something I've been thinking a lot about is just how exciting this RL age that we're entering into is going. Because like in your business case, you have all of this incredible institutional knowledge that oftentimes just leaves the enterprise. But as people are using these tools, or like in the film industry, for example, you have people in the film industry who are world-class craftspeople, specifically within the like knowledge-based disciplines like production accounting or production finance. And if you can build a tool that is actually engaging them to do their work better, but then is also learning to make the whole process better, it's going to unleash unbelievable wealth, not only in our entertainment industry, but also in the legal services business as well. Like imagine a world like what Vannevar Bush dreamt of 60 years ago, where all of our businesses are learning because we're contributing to them. Like that's a very exciting future to think about across every single vertical.
Yeah.
You just mentioned learning. I want to go one step back and say, how did you go about to decide which systems to use, how to solve the challenges you just explained with the different accountings, with the different teams, payrolls and onboarding, whatever. How to choose the best system? What risk assessment do you do? What did you take into account? What to base your solution on?
Well, I love that we're both up here together because it's like your business is AI native, like AI first. What we've really been doing is we've built like a classic verticalized fintech SaaS application, but we're both seeing this like incredible amount of productivity and growth through using these tools. In our case, our platform has lots of different users with different jobs to be done. So a crew person logs into Wrapbook, they fill out their time card, they get paid, right? But imagine enabling them to be able to use a tool like Decagon to simply ask a question like, where's my paycheck? That is so incredibly valuable to them, where they can get the answer like this instead of waiting 48 hours for a customer service rep. So a simple transaction like that makes us better, but then even deeper integrating these technologies into our product. A great example is this. When you're pulling reports, many of you probably use Salesforce or a tool where you're creating lots of complex if-then statements to pull a direct report. This is true in our industry as well for production accountants. What we introduced very early on was natural language query, because you don't always want to be able to utilize the expensive resources of a production accountant to get an answer. You want to, as a producer, log in and say, how much did we spend on Ubers for the production last week? And instead of having to meticulously go through tags and toggles and understand how to use the tool enables you to find these very specific answers in a very specific way. For us, the nuance here is we cannot simply have a generated answer. Our clients demand full control. But if we use AI to enable them to make faster outcomes, they like that. So with the reporting, you use natural language to query the report, but you have full autonomy and control to change or modify the report as you wish. And so we have lots of examples like this from the reporting, from vendor verification, from all of these different touch points across the different users that are experiencing the platform.
And when you started, what kind of AI system did you choose? Can you elaborate on that one? Because you just said you have different systems that you have to log into to get the data, to get the right answers. So you have, I envision you have different ERP systems or whatever to connect to. So what was the base that you choose so you'd be able to make that?
It's an excellent question, and it's so interesting because like we are in the midst of this incredible wave. God bless the amazing computer scientists that have made this possible. You know, in terms of the enterprise, we have enterprise point solutions, right? Like I mentioned Decagon. We've gotten a lot of value out of it. On the marketing side, we've tried different tools for large SEO projects. Internally, many of our engineers are massive fans of Claude Code or using Anthropic for OCR for like invoice ingestion. This is a huge problem that we solve at Wrapbook. For a production that's deploying $100 million USD, they're buying products and services, and so those need to come in through purchase orders and be attached with AI to invoices and payments. So we use the stack directly to your question, Bedrock through AWS, and then Anthropic, and then a number of different types of applications along the enterprise journey.
Yeah, and I think to add something about this, it also depends a lot on the market that you are. So for example, in Europe, like sovereignty is turning to be a very important topic, especially when you are in the legal field. People want to know what you're doing with the contract data that they have. And so speaking about the system that we built, obviously we collaborated with companies such as OpenAI for AI, but also with Mistral AI in France to let the truth to our customers to decide whether they want to use OpenAI or Mistral depending on their key stakes, which can be performance, and at the moment we have better results with the systems with OpenAI or sovereignty, and in that case you will use Mistral AI agents instead of OpenAI powered.
Well, as long as you're in the legal field, and maybe you can elaborate on that one, how much you support the clients on legal wording at the moment, or if you have a plan to do that for the future, because if you do, there's certain regulations that you need to take into account. So if you also help draft clauses for a waiver clause or whatever.
Yeah, so our job at the moment is understanding many different things about what you do when you do contracts. So obviously the business related topics. So we spoke about financials previously. So what's the maximal amount of discount that you are willing to accept with this kind of customer, for example, or payment terms, for example. And obviously also speaking about regulation. So is the contract that you are being drafting or signing is compliant with the French law or the new regulation that came? And that's something we are working on. The chance that we have in Europe is that, maybe it's the same in the US, but it's in open data. So all the legal decisions are open and easily accessible to companies like ours to compare. It's simple as that. What you do with what the market standards are.
Cameron, you mentioned that you also have people that are in unions, whatever, so you have regulations there. How do you ensure that the newest regulation is always taken into account or fed into your system? I mean, I think that's complex on your side, isn't it?
It's really to the point that we were discussing earlier, right? Like there's all of this institutional knowledge. So the way that this is done today in the States when you're paying union workers, first you must realize that in the States you've got SAG-AFTRA, DGA, IATSE, Screen Actors Guild, the Teamsters. These are all different unions with different contracts. And of their members, all of their members have different roles and different payment types, and then the contracts can change. And so the contracts can be renegotiated every 3 years, or maybe the union does a one-off agreement with a given production. And so you're absolutely right, the complexity is enormous. And the way that this is done from our competitors and from others is, of course, sort of this hybrid approach of building a deterministic calculator and then having a human expert make sure that that deterministic calculator is like summing correctly. But what's really interesting to think about is really building a more hybrid experience, more akin to what you're describing, where we can run these same workflows as we always do, but be constantly capturing data that can refine how ultimately these types of agents could enable these really expressive and exciting outcomes in the products that we're doing. So how we do this at Wrapbook, it's a huge partnership, right? It's a lot of data coming in from different people and then reconciling data. And you'll find that if you are in the audience here working in compliance, this is an exercise in reconciliation. Is this input the output that we want? And then just going through approval process after approval process. And so on the union side, it really is this massive coordination between the worker inputting times, the calculators being properly calibrated, the paymaster, the actual human expert at Wrapbook, reviewing that with the production accountant, making sure that these things reconcile. But the new difference, the exciting thing about the future that we're entering into, is that this process can be recorded. I mean, we saw Pendo was up here earlier. Pendo is like such a wonderfully fantastic tool to see how our users are using these tools. And that behavior can teach us so much as individual product builders, but also you can imagine a future where that data can be very, very useful for making our SaaS enterprise applications much easier to use for both administrators and as well users.
You mentioned that you have a second stream of a product being developed. I'm eager to learn more about that.
Yeah, and that's, I think, a great timing, because I was listening to Des Traynor, the co-founder of Intercom previously, and he spoke about this strategy. So we started 6 years ago. AI was not a big thing at this time, and the purpose of what we are building was streamlining collaboration between the business and the legal teams. And in 2022, 2023, when LLM arrived, it happens that we were sat on a huge data set that was super valuable. And so we started building on top of this, and we've seen the legal population being more and more demanding on their expectations. So at the beginning it was curiosity, so they were looking to try a few things, but now there are clear expectations on what kind of agent do they want, what kind of outcome do they want. And so in 2024 we had to rethink the strategy and forget a little bit about everything that we've built over the last 5 years and make a big bet about building something completely new that would be the product that we will launch today if we were starting the company today. So it's not yet released, so please keep it for you. It will be released in January, but yeah, we truly believe that expectations are here. It will last in the time, and product like us, we need to reinvent what we do and not only add a little bit of AI in an existing and legacy software that we've built over years, but forget about it and start from a new page.
Yeah. And you just recently opened up an office in my home country, in Germany. So if you go towards the other route to have more legal regulations included, I think the complexity for you comes by country where your complexity is in the US because of the different unions and whatever. How would you tackle that, or what can you share some details on how are you already planning to tackle that, to take the regulations into account, always like the newest that need to be considered?
I think that our competitors of tomorrow are the product that are launching today. So when I spoke about the product that we are releasing in standalone, we do this because we believe that our future competitors are not the ones that we have today, but the ones that are being started today. And so that being said, it's super competitive overall. So you see new players emerging every day in France, in Germany, in the next countries we'll address, of course. And so I think it's great because it opens new budgets to the legal teams also, which was a struggle historically. So it's very positive, and hopefully we manage to make something big with this new announcement in January.
We're almost done, so we have time for one advice. If you have one advice for the audience, what would that be, Cameron?
Well, look, I think you have to always trust and listen to your customers. For us in the film industry, there's a lot of complex feelings about AI, right? How does AI interact with the creative process? How should AI interact with the administrative process? And what we have found is that if we approach AI with a humble disposition and we talk to our clients and we figure out how to accelerate and increase the workforce, the agency that they have in their work, that these tools can be celebrated, that we can lean into them and we can really innovate together and we can drive a more human and a more exciting future together versus like a vision of just like, hey, it's just going to do everything. I mean, that's just not totally feasible in a highly complex, regulatorily nuanced industry. And so using these as tools is no different in my view than using batch compute or mobile compute or desktop compute. Like, these are all waves in the story. And so focus on that, focus on customers, and you'll win.
Yeah. What would you say for founders or future founders? What's most important, Antoine?
So as a founder, the key thing I tell myself is remember that tomorrow it might be too late. So what I mean by that is that you need to keep in movement. You need to, sometimes you don't know what to do, but you need to go in a direction. You need to do something, to take action and take big risks. So what we are doing today with the company, we are 100 people in the company, and we say, so, okay, what we've done over the last 5 years might not be our future, and we believe that there is another path in building a billion-dollar company, and we are willing to take the risk right now. And I think that's in the spirit of doing and willing to maximize the outcome in the end.
Thank you so much to the two of you.
Thank you, Britta.